Good morning, folks. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. My name is Rachel Wilkins. Delighted to be here this morning. Happy Tuesday. We are here this morning with the wonderful Vanessa Clifton. Vanessa was born in born in Texas, raised in Michigan, and settled in New York City, where she's been since 2013. She got her BFA in photography from Western Michigan University in 2012, and we go back a couple of years. So welcome, Vanessa, to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Have you got anything fun in your cup this morning? I have a nice black coffee here.
I had a little tea earlier.
Is that your morning beverage of choice?
Yeah, that's it.
So where are you joining us from this morning? Where in the city are you based? Are you in the boroughs? Are you in Manhattan?
So I'm home in Brooklyn. I'm based in Bed-Stuy.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So what brought you to New York? Because it seems like you've traveled a little bit. You were born in Texas, and then moved to Michigan. And you just shared with me you're heading out to see your family this afternoon. So it is going to be a little shorter episode, so we can make sure Vanessa does get to the airport this morning. But what drew you to New York?
So after I graduated, I wanted to do fashion photography, believe it or not. And New York is the capital of fashion. So I figured I would move here.
Nice.
And my work has actually changed quite a bit since then.
So you start out with some kind of fashion photography. What kind of work did you do in those early days? Were you shooting like editorial style, or was there an artistic edge to what you were doing even then?
So back then, I was shooting in a little bit of an editorial style, but that work was it was very artsy actually. And then that kind of dove in. I kind of changed. I did a little bit of wedding photography. I did a little bit of product photography. And what I shoot now is basically documentary work and a bit of photojournalism. So you could say there was a little bit of that even back then.
So what was it like as a child to be kind of growing up in this warm climate of Texas, very kind of red state, right outside of Dallas? You grew up in Mesquite. What was that like, just to be a young person kind of coming of age somewhere like that?
So I actually left Texas when I was about 3, and I was raised in Michigan. And being raised in Michigan, it was very. The little city that I'm from is called Kalamazoo. Yes, it exists. And it's very small, but there's like a bit of a city. There's like a urban feel, but if you drive out far enough, it gets pretty rural pretty quickly. So growing up there, it's kind of always wanted to live in a bigger city because I wanted to see more and experience more.
Nice. And Michigan's kind of had a little. Well, I know Detroit's had somewhat of a revival to its art scene recently. I know it's a very gritty city, but it's seen a lot of kind of street artists gravitate out there. Did you find that it was a good place for you as a creative to get started?
My little city, actually, as small as Kalamazoo it's very open to art. And every first Friday of the month, there is like an art walk. And you go downtown and each little store has they feature different artists. And that was very, very good to like be immersed in that because it opens you up to discovering different artists and different mediums.
That's awesome. Were there any particular artists that you were a fan of, or that you looked up to when you were growing up?
I really love Richard Avedon. His work, when he started in fashion as well. Like, I want to say late 30s, 40s, and 50s, his work was all kind of like black and white fashion work. But then as he got older, his work also changed too. He did like the portraits out in the West. I want to say they were farmers, I believe. Of like the white backdrop in like the fields. Is awesome, beautiful work. And then I really love Gordon Parks. He also started out with fashion. He talks about kind of like failing. He shot 2 jobs for this magazine and something happened with the film and he like ruined it. And then he got started doing the work with Life. And that's how he, got his fame and his work,
That's very cool. So I noticed that your work does have, you play with light a lot. It's a lot of the work that you do, especially more recently, is very monochromatic. It's shot in this very moody kind of black and white. I apologize, my dog is rumbling around and it's great right now. You're asking a serious question, Mom. Here we go. Frank. All right. So your work is very moody. It's like monochromatic. Shot very much like a cinema still. That's what it reminds me of. And I know you have this desire, this attraction towards cinematography. Tell us more about that.
Well, actually, believe it or not, I said I was going to give up photography. I want to say this was maybe 2017. And I sold all of my digital equipment and I kept the one camera that I had in college. And I said, if I'm going to do something else, it's fine, but I still want to shoot and make sure that my eye is still sharp. So I went out and I started shooting street stuff, just kind of like try it out and see how I felt. And then I looked at the negatives and I was like, wait, these are kind of good. So maybe I should keep going with this. And that's kind of how my new work developed, just kind of almost giving up and doing something else. And then I do notice that the street stuff does look like cinema. And from that, I've kind of been learning more about cinematography since that.
And you did some work with the International Center for Photography. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I was TAing there, I want to say 2018 area. I was a TA in the Darkroom because I was shooting film and I wanted to kind of go back to the foundation of being in the darkroom. That's how I learned. I learned darkroom at like 17 in high school and continued through college. And I hadn't been in the darkroom in almost 6-7 years at that point. And so being at ICP and just being in a darkroom, it kind of revived something. It did something for me. I love the smell of Fixer. It's like Folgers for me. So yeah, from that, I met a mentor who's now my boss at the new school. So from that, it led to something else, which is really great.
That's amazing. And what are you doing at the new school right now?
So right now at the new school, I work in one of the equipment cages.
Nice.
We help students like check out gear, like recording equipment, cinema equipment, and photography.
Right.
And sometimes we help them kind of like learn how to use it and troubleshoot.
That's amazing that you've managed to kind of keep your day job within the area of your passion, because I think so many of us do that. Like, when I was kind of finding my feet in New York, I was bartending, I was working in restaurants, I was, waiting tables, whatever it took to kind of pay the bills to allow me to buy new canvases and paint.
Yeah.
Props to you for managing to stay within the realm of what it is you want to do. That's amazing. And it's so important to develop relationships with people within these industries and network. Have you found it to be valuable to be in these places and make these connections?
Absolutely. Networking is essential. It's something that, because I'm a little shy, a little reserved, so it's something that I've kind of had to work on and still trying to figure out how to work on.
Right. I think a lot of us, are just inherently shy because we spend so much time kind of insular, I guess. Like we're creating is somewhat of an isolating process. Like we create by ourselves, right? We create alone. And I think often when we put our work out to large groups of people, whether that's in a show or online, it can feel very vulnerable. How do you feel when you stand in front of your work and people are observing it or looking at it as somebody who is maybe a little bit more naturally introverted?
It's always interesting. My roommates now, they basically had to badger me to put up work in the living room.
Wow.
And when I put it up, they were kind of like, oh my God, it's so great. And I kind of was like, oh, all right. So it's always interesting to get feedback and hear people's comments. It's always an interesting thing. I'm like, oh, maybe I should get out of my shell a little bit and show more work.
It can be hard though.
It's hard.
I think when you start to do it though, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And one of the things for many artists that I see is like we're not natural public speakers. Like that doesn't come easy to us, right? We can speak through the word. Actually, trying to answer questions and tell stories about the work can be a challenge, but I do think it's something we can learn to do. And I think there is so much story in your work. It is very personal. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that work that you did in 2019 that was very, very personal. There's one piece in particular that really, really struck me, and that was the image of your aunt standing outside your mother's room. Your mother did pass away last year, which my condolences to you.
You.
How do you go through that moment as a creative with your camera in hand and document such a vulnerable, painful time of your life?
For me, I've learned within like the past 2 years that photography is a good way to talk about my emotions. And so the work has turned very personal. That image that you're speaking of, that was, I want to say, a couple months before she passed. And at the time, my mom, she didn't really want to be, I don't want to say bothered, but she didn't really want to be around people too much. And that was a difficult moment because my aunt had come to visit, and my mom, she really wasn't in the mood. So, yeah, I think I've been grieving through my images. The last work that I shot was after she passed, and I came home to help make arrangements and everything, and just photographing how she left her space. And so I plan to show that. I just don't know when or how to do it. But yeah.
It's such a personal experience, but I'm glad to hear that you are kind of having some catharsis through this process. And I think creativity can really do that. It can be healing. It can be therapeutic. Is there any other incidents in your life where you've gone to photography in that manner? Any hardships or challenges that you faced where you were able to use your creativity to express?
Yes. I did a short film. It's called Surface. And I recently learned how to swim. And so it's like a 3-shot short. It's where someone is diving into water, and it's almost like they're sinking. But at the end of the film, they come up to the surface. And in the piece, I wanted to talk about kind of, I guess, depression. And sometimes you feel like you're going to die, you're not going to make it. But at the last little second, you make it to the top and you figure it out and you come to the surface and you succeed.
How did it feel to see that complete once you kind of put all these?
Oh, man. Really good. Really good. I got a lot of positive feedback on that piece, too.
It's wonderful. How do you approach your work? Are you somebody that has the idea and the concept before, or do you move through the moments and kind of capture things as they come to you?
I'll start with the concept. I'll shoot it, and then I'll kind of tweak it and make changes as I go.
Nice. What has been the most rewarding project that you've been able to work on, or rewarding set of images?
So far, I did a couple portraits around the neighborhood of Black women. I wanted to start a project about Black women and showing our vulnerability and alongside that, showing the power. A lot of times we have to be strong and, I can do it. But that shouldn't be the case all the time. So I wanted to kind of do this project with like duality in mind. So I started, shot on film. I started with a 6x7 Mamiya rangefinder and with color film, and just kind of going around the neighborhood and talking to people. And it also helped me learn how to speak to people and network and all these different things. And that kind of evolved into a different camera format, and also with a recording. So it became almost like a multi-dimensional piece.
What were some of the interesting conversations or interesting folks that you met during that process? Did you have any conversations that surprised you?
Well, the work is kind of in process. I still need to do more to it. I spoke to one woman on her front steps, and she was just talking about, the challenges of trying to be strong and be a woman and be feminine and be vulnerable, but also being strong.
That's wonderful. It sounds like a very empowering project. So, I'm looking through your photographs as I'm doing some research, and noticed a really powerful photograph from just this last week. And we are obviously in this very turbulent times, and you're right here in the city, coming off the back of a pandemic where we've all been locked in, right, for 3 months, to then have this really defining series of events that happens. And this protest, this march that happens through New York City in honor of George Floyd. And I believe there were members of his family even involved in this particular protest in New York. And you were able to be right up there, right in the midst of the front of this protest, and you've got this beautiful, just profound photograph. Tell us what it's like to be in that moment, as somebody who, is part of the people that you're a Black woman. You're oppressed by this same system that continues to oppress African American people, and police brutality, but also be there to capture this unique moment in history. How did that feel emotionally?
It was very empowering. I don't think I'm one for politics or really protesting much, but with the series of events with Ahmaud, with Breonna, with George, I was in this room and I was so angry and I was crying and I was hurt. And I was like, how can I process this? How can I deal with these emotions? And I said, oh, photography. So I took my camera, I charged my batteries, got my SD cards out, and I was like, how can I get involved? What can I do? And so I went to a protest here in Bed-Stuy. And then the following week, I went to the memorial in Brooklyn. And it was so empowering. It felt so good to not only have my voice heard, but also make images that could kind of portray how I felt, how other people feel. And just to be among all the people, so many people. And we marched from Brooklyn all the way over the Brooklyn Bridge down to the city. It was amazing.
What was the temperature like in that moment? The media can, we need the media, right? We need to see the reactions. We need to see what's going on. But I think they often go to something that is, they can use as breaking news, something that's, either volatile or exciting. You don't often get the real temperature of what's going on unless you're a part of. What was the feeling like that day?
The feeling was passionate. Anger, which I feel like the anger is rightfully so. People are upset, people are tired. It was almost overwhelming. I think I had goosebumps just because the amount of people, the amount of passion. It was amazing. And I feel like the media is almost kind of, they want to portray it as so violent. And I've shot at 2 protests so far, and that wasn't the case. So I don't like the distortion because I don't feel like that's accurate. So I felt like as a photographer, as a documentary photographer, I was able to get the real deal.
And they're amazing photographs. For anybody who has not checked it, check them out. Go check out Vanessa's website. Is it Vanessa Clifton Photography?
It's VanessaClifton.com, but that stuff, they should probably go to my Instagram, which is Vanessa Photo 89.
Putting that in the comments right now.
Okay.
You guys can go take a look. 89, right? Okay. Yeah, really powerful and impactful photographs. So when you have something like that where you capture this unique moment in time, what do you want to do with that? What's your plan to, to kind of extend that image out into the public realm?
That is a part that I'm questioning.
Mm.
I could possibly submit it to publications, put it on my website, put it on social media, just try to disperse the images more so that people can get the real tone
Mm-hmm.
and really know what's going on.
Absolutely. So you talked about a final project that you did for your film class, that was something you created about the pandemic, and it was a project about feeling safe. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So that was a direct, like, it's the title of the course is called Aesthetics of Directing, which was really great. The class breaks down how to direct, how to write a script, how to break the script down into scenes. And at the end of the course changed because all of my courses went online.
Mm.
So the final project was to create a film about what it means to feel safe during the pandemic. So with my topic, I wanted to create a film about someone who is trying to get through the pandemic or get through a city that doesn't feel safe and get back to safety. And at the end of the film, for me, what's safe is my house, my mother's Bible, and a couple of her photographs. The Bible, she's had this Bible all of my life. And, she was raised in church. I was raised in church. So it's just like a safe feeling for me to have, like, religion and her items here with me.
When you said you grew up with religion, and you grew up in this place just outside of Texas, were you somebody that felt a yearning to be expressive through creativity as a young person, or was this something that came later in life to you?
I knew I wanted to be an artist in third grade.
Awesome.
It's like I have to do something artistic.
Really? What was your form of expression back then? Were you painting?
Back then, I wrote. I was writing like stories as a kid.
That's awesome.
And my mom kept all of them.
You should use them in your work sometime. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, they're in a box somewhere, but they're around.
Did you grow up with siblings?
Yes, I have an older sister.
What about, was there somebody supporting you for your creativity, or were you perhaps directed to take a more conventional academic path, or was it supported?
It was supported until I picked my major. And then there was a lot of arguments.
Really?
Yeah. My mother wanted me to do something more stable.
Mm.
What is stable now in 2020? Right. Nothing.
That's true. What do you think that would look like if you would have gone down a different path?
I might be a little depressed, like miserable, unhappy, unfulfilled.
What does photography give you that perhaps something, in terms of like fulfillment? What does it give you emotionally?
Photography, I love photography because it's a way to freeze moments outside of writing and images. There's no way to go back in time. There is a photograph that's floating around the family of my great grandparents. And I think it might have been like a early daguerreotype or maybe a Talbot type, but the image is like sealed in my brain. How else am I going to get back to late 1800s? And also it gives me like an emotional outlet. It's a way for me to express, to kind of see things from an abstract, and then give what I see back to viewers so that they can see it too.
We have all these technological advancements now, and we can, take high quality photographs from, this thing in our hand, and really incredible just momentum in terms of what we can do, the ways that we can capture experiences today. But there is still this unfortunate result of that, which is we don't really print out a lot of photographs today. Like, I mean, I think I counted, I have like 7,000 photographs in here. I can't tell you when I printed a picture, and I often worry that, we're going to lose big segments of our time because we don't have those, boxes of old photographs dusty in the loft. Do you ever worry about that? And do you make it a habit to print, certain works that really speak to you?
I do worry about that. Outside of the images that are in the living room, I usually don't print, which is terrible because I'm a photographer. But I plan to change that. I bought some frames to frame up some of the pieces that you're talking about in my room. And when the labs open back up, I plan to make those prints. And yeah, my grandmother, she has boxes of prints everywhere, like underneath the piano, in the corner, in a crate, in a tub. So yeah, I do feel like it's very important to actually make prints.
I was at my in-laws recently, and they bring out these huge albums, and we were looking through photographs of Jen when she was young, and it's always funny because you look at the pictures, and there's photographs of people who they don't know, and there's like really badly shot photographs. It was.
Oh, look, can I show you something?
Please.
So I have a great aunt who is up in Harlem area, and I went to visit her, and she burst out her photo albums. And this is one of the reasons why I love photography so much. This is a picture of my great grandfather's funeral. And in the back, like way in the back, you can see my grandfather, and he looks like a baby. I'll bring it closer. And this is like 1960, and you can see their wardrobes.
Wow.
So this is why I love photography.
That's beautiful.
So, and then, because you can go back, and this is my great grandfather, and my grandfather is right there. Like, how else can you do that? You can't.
These little frozen moments in time. It's amazing. Actually, I want to show you. So this is my grandparents. This is like one of those worn down photographs, but I keep this on my beside my desk, and it like captures.
Oh wow, I love that.
Look how old that thing is, but timeless, right? And I think we do miss that with the digital prints. Like we tend not to print out these moments, and I think we could be better with that.
Yeah, me too.
Do you? Obviously there are all these technical resources and hardware and things that we can use. But you mentioned that you found your passion in those dark rooms. What is the old kind of classic way of developing photographs give you that perhaps the digital cannot?
It's for me, it's the fact that it's tangible. When you take an image, you have a negative, you can grab it, you can swing it around, you could look at it. And digital is great, but you don't have that. And also, I guess, hopefully this doesn't sound snooty, but with film photography, you have to really know your craft, because film is expensive, especially now. There are all the distributors, Kodak, Fuji, everybody's trying to stay in business, so the prices are raised. You have to know your craft technically, or you'll blow through the film. And so for me, film kind of slows you down. You think about composition, you think about your ISO, your shutter speeds, all of that slowed down. Where with digital, you can shoot until tomorrow. And you don't have to be as precise because you can fix it later.
It's hard to know. I mean, like you said, you need to really know your craft because you're working with scarcity. Like you only have this limited resources, so you have so much pressure to get it right.
Yeah.
It's hard to know which of those is preferred because you can have so many chances to get it right with digital.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's something very something a lot more wholesome, I think, about that process of going into the dark room.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're somebody who has moved, you've relocated a couple of times throughout the US. How would you say that your environment has influenced and informed your work?
Mm, I feel like being in New York, I'm more exposed to different cultures, maybe different ways of living. And I think that does influence my work because back in Michigan, I wouldn't be able to shoot some of the things that I've shot here.
I mean, it's the most photographed city in the world. But how do you, I mean, obviously it is the most photographed city in the world. How do you, as a creative, find new ways to, document what you see in the city?
I think that's something that I'm still working on and working through. I need to explore more neighborhoods and not just mine. I want to eventually go up to Harlem and shoot. I want to go down to maybe East New York and shoot. So I wouldn't be able to get those same neighborhoods if I was back in the Midwest.
And that's the thing about New York, right? It's there's so much richness to the city, but it always amazed me that you can walk, a couple of blocks and be in a totally different neighborhood culturally.
Absolutely.
You can go from Chinatown to Little Italy to Harlem and experience completely different cultures, completely different people, stores, environment, music, that it can change in just such, such small spaces. I mean, there's really no better place, I think, for an artist to experience, all the many faces of, of our kind of unique culture that we have here.
Yeah.
So, what do you hope that people take away from your work?
I think, well, I know I'm learning that people are not really open with their emotions. And so with my work, I want people to experience emotions and know that it's okay to be vulnerable.
Do you ever see that vulnerability when people experience your work?
Yes. Yeah. I've heard that people are moved, especially with some of like the newer work. I keep hearing that a lot.
That's amazing. So what are your aspirations or hopes kind of going forward? I know it's a weird time to ask that question because we are still in, it feels like we're in the middle of like Armageddon or something right now.
A little bit.
If we could just all scratch off 2020, it'd be cool. But when we come out the other side, whenever that will be, it will happen. Like, what are you hopeful for? What are your goals kind of coming out of this?
So I haven't exhibited in many years. So I am looking to exhibit some of the newer work, maybe within like a group show or a solo show. I want to start a series about intimacy within like queer relationships. So that's something that I've kind of been brainstorming on and trying to figure out an approach. That's not something that I see a lot. So it's something that I want to document and broadcast to everyone else.
Nice. Very cool. So what would you say up to now has been the most rewarding experience as a photographer for you?
Oh man, up to now, probably shooting on the bridge. The George Floyd march. I don't think I've ever shot anything that powerful before.
I think you get back and look at those photographs. Like, because you're so in that moment, right? When you're shooting, like, how did it feel to kind of look at them and, process what you just captured? Because you captured this very defining moment in time.
It's kind of like, wow. Like I was there. Yeah.
It's pretty special.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to take a couple of questions. So if anybody has any questions for Vanessa, do jump in because Vanessa has a flight to catch. So we don't want to keep her too long because we don't want her to miss her flight. Where are you heading?
I am heading to Kalamazoo, Michigan to visit my grandmother, visit my sister, check on everyone.
That's awesome. I'm sure they will be super excited to see you after this, period of lockdown.
Yeah. Everyone was really worried and calling me, making sure it was okay. So I'll go show my face.
That's awesome. Well, make sure that you use lots of PPE.
Lots.
Suit, or make sure you don't touch anything on those dirty planes. All right, so there's a couple of questions here. So Leo says, Leo asks, do powerful emotional pictures stay put? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read this. Do you not put powerful emotional pictures up because of how they make you feel?
No, I put them up. I put everything that's emotional is up except for the images after my mom passed. I'm trying to figure out how if I want to take those to social media or if I want to save those for later.
And this is a good point from Leo here. Digital seems to be fleeting. I think that's
I think film seems to be fleeting. I think maybe image making as a whole is moving into moving. Everybody wants video, clients, different aspects. So I do think it's good for image makers to know stills and moving, to be well versed.
And another question, do you have your own darkroom setup?
I wish. I just have a 35 millimeter film scanner, and I'm thinking about processing my own in the bathroom, perhaps.
For anybody who's never done that before, what does that process even look like? There's a lot of chemicals involved. I know that much.
You just need a couple. You need developer. You need fixer. You need stop bath. I probably said that out of order. You need developer. You need stop bath. You need fixer. Those are the main three. And then you have your chemical set up. You have your film in the cylinder, and you just pour the chemicals in. You time it. You pour them out. You have to dispose of them properly, so your landlord doesn't kill you.
That's awesome.
Well, yes, it's simple. It's easier than it looks.
Very, very cool. Well, Vanessa, thank you for joining me this morning. It's been a pleasure. Obviously, I've known each other for a couple of years, and I love keeping up with your work. And hopefully, we will get to come and see your work in person in a group or a solo show sometime soon in the near future, once this apocalypse is over. So let's just let folks know where they can learn more about you. Obviously, we already put your Instagram up, but what is your website?
So for the fine art work, you can go to, I have a lot of different sites. So for the fine art work, you can go to vanessacliftonphoto.com.
Perfect. All right, folks, go check out Vanessa's work, especially this current series. It's really beautiful. The pieces that she just captured from the Floyd protests, really profound, very timely work. And be sure to give her a follow on Instagram. Vanessa, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you.
Thank you for having me.
And
take care.
Have a safe flight today.
Thank you so much.
All right, be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll be back again tomorrow, folks. We'll see you same time. And that is our show for today. Thanks.